last chapter, we saw how Heidi struggles with a new life in Frankfurt and how much she misses her life in mountains with her grandfather. We see how she's been keeping all the bread loaves for her visit back to her grandfather. Clara starts enjoying Heidi's company. They get to hide the kittens. But on the other hand, Miss Rottermeier is faced with challenges with Heidi's presence and the way she behaves. We also get to hear that Mr. Sesemann is to visit them anytime soon, and he would take a call if Heidi would continue living in Frankfurt or would be sent back to mountains to live with her grandfather. Let's see what's in store in this chapter. Heidi by Johanna Spyri. Chapter 9. Mr. Sesemann takes Heidi's part. Narrated by Tanvi Gupta. A few days after these events, there was a great commotion and much running up and down stairs in Mr. Sesemann's house. The master had just returned, and Sebastian and Tinette were busy carrying up one package after another from the carriage. For Mr. Sesemann always brought back a lot of pretty things for his home. He himself had not waited to do anything before going in to see his daughter. Heidi was sitting beside her, for it was late afternoon when the two were always together. Father and daughter greeted each other with warm affection, for they were deeply attached to one another. Then he held out his hand to Heidi, who had stolen away into the corner, and said kindly to her, "And this is our little Swiss girl. Come and shake hands with me." "That's right. Now tell me, are Clara and you good friends with one another? Or do you get angry and quarrel? And then cry and make it up? And then start quarreling again on the next occasion?" "No, Clara is always kind to me," answered Heidi. And Heidi put in Clara quickly, has not once tried to quarrel. "That's all right. I am glad to hear it," said her father, as he rose from his chair. "But you must excuse me, Clara, for I have had nothing to eat all day. Afterwards, I will show you all the things I have brought home with me." He found Miss Rottermeier in the dining room, and when he had taken his place, she sat down opposite to him, looking so gloomy that he turned to her and said, "What is the matter?" "Mr. Sesemann," began the lady in a solemn voice, "we have been frightfully imposed upon." "Indeed? In what way?" asked Mr. Sesemann, as he went on calmly drinking his wine. "Well, I supposed I was getting a well-behaved and a nicely brought-up little Swiss girl for Krala's companion, but I have been shockingly, disgracefully imposed upon." "But how? What is there shocking and disgraceful? I see nothing shocking in the child," remarked Mr. Sesemann quietly. "If you only knew the kind of people and animals she has brought into the house during your absence, the tutor can tell you more about that." "Animals? What am I to understand by animals, Miss Rottermeier?" "It is past understanding. The whole behavior of the child would be past understanding. If it were not that, at times she is evidently not in her right mind." At that moment, the door opened, and the tutor was announced. "Ah, here is someone," exclaimed Mr. Sesemann, "who will help to clear up matters for me. Take a seat," he continued as he held out his hand to the tutor. "And now tell me, what is the matter with this child that has come up to be companion to my daughter?" The tutor started in his usual style. "If I must give my opinion about this little girl, I should like to state first that if on one side there's a lack of development which has been caused by the more or less carelessly way in she has been brought up." "My good friend," interrupted Mr. Sesemann, "you are giving yourself more trouble than you need. I only want to know what your opinion is as to her being a fit companion or not for my daughter." I should not like in any way to prejudice you against her, began the tutor once more. For if on the one hand there is a certain inexperience of the ways of society, owing to the uncivilized life she led up to the time of her removal to Frankfurt, on the other hand she is endowed with certain good qualities, and taken on the whole. Excuse me, my dear sir, do not disturb yourself, but I think my daughter will be wanting me. And with that, Mr. Sesemann quickly left the room and went into the study to talk to Clara. And now, my dear, he said, drawing his chair nearer and laying her hand in his. What kind of animals has your little companion brought into the house? And why does Miss Rottermeier think that she's not always in her right mind? Clara had no difficulty in answering. She told her father everything about the tortoise and the kittens and explained to him what Heidi had said the day Miss Rottermeier had been put up in such a fright. Mr. Sesemann laughed heartily at her recital. So, you do not want me to tell the signed home again? He asked. You are not tired of having her here? Oh, no, no, Clara exclaimed. Please do not send her away. Time has passed much more quickly since Heidi has been here. For something fresh happens every day. And it used to be so dull. And she has always so much to tell me. That evening, when Mr. Sesemann and Miss Rottermeier were alone, settling the household affairs, he informed her that he intended to keep Heidi, for his daughter liked her as a companion. I desire, he continued, that the child shall be in every way kindly treated, and that her peculiarities shall not be looked upon as crimes. If you find her too much for you alone, I can hold out a prospect of help, for I am expecting my mother here on a long visit. And she, as you know, can get along with anybody, whatever they may be like. Oh, yes, I know, replied Miss Rottermeier. But there was no tone of relief in her voice as she thought of the coming help. Mr. Sesemann was only home for a short time. He left for Paris again before the fortnight was over, comforting Clara with the prospect of her grandmother's arrival, which was to take place in a few days' time. Clara talked so much about her grandmother that Heidi began also to call her grandmamma, which brought forth a look of displeasure from Miss Rottermeier. As she was going to her room that night, Miss Rottermeier waylaid her, gave her strict orders not to call Mrs. Sesemann grandmamma, but always to say madam. The end.